I'm following my friend Mike. We're on private property. He's going to tell us all about growing ginseng, if the wind will let us record, that is.
Okay, so what we have here is wild American ginseng. It's a very prized plant. It's very famous for its adaptogenic qualities, helping your body to recover from stress and to deal with stress a lot better, as well as to give you more energy. So the useful part of this plant is the root, and unfortunately digging up the root kills the plant. So there are many laws governing its harvesting. Make sure you know what your local and federal laws are regarding its harvesting. I have a couple of specimens I can show you regarding their how far they are and their life cycle. This is your classic picture here of a wild American ginseng plant. This is called a three-pronger. I don't know if you can see, but we have the stem comes up and divides into 3 little stems, and on each stem there's a 5-leaf whorl that is very characteristic of wild American ginseng. If you look in the center, there's going to be a seed berry stem that'll come up later in the season. These are common ways to identify it. There are a couple other smaller, younger species around. This one here is probably about 2 years old. These are probably about 2 or 3 years old right here, if you can see these. The 3-pronged ones are usually between, say, 4 or more years old. The plant is a perennial. It comes up every year, and unless you dig the root up, it'll just keep every year. The root will get bigger, and traditionally, the older the plant is, the more valuable it is, and it's also more effective as far as its uses. If you look right here, this I found is another little ginseng plant that got its leaves, I think, chewed off maybe from a deer. I found one of these, and this is actually a ginseng plant, I can tell. And that looks like a 3-pronger. Now that one, I don't believe the plant is dead, but for this year it will not produce any berries, so it'll just go into dormant mode, which is what happens if the plant dies but you don't dig the root up. Okay, ginseng is a plant that can be cultivated as long as you do it with care. Every one of the ginseng plants that I'm showing you today is a result of me cultivating it from a patch that I found somewhere else in this same set of woods and transplanted it here some 25 years ago. Clearly these are not the same plants, but they are descendants of them. Once I did get them here, each year I would take the berries that come off of it and I would scatter them around so they would start a new generation of them. There's also other techniques you can do to help to cultivate them so you can get seedlings which you can plant, which maybe we'll speak about that later. These plants need this forest loam. If you see all the leaves, it's got to be a very rich forest floor, the soil that it needs, as well as about an 80% shade rate. So if you take a look at the trees up top, you'll notice that it can't be in a full sun area. Now there's also different commercial growers who will cultivate ginseng on a mass scale, and they use netting to get that shade requirement, as well as they'll give the other soil requirements they need. But like I said, these are all a result of me transplanting some, which I had to dig the full root up and make sure you get the whole plant, otherwise it'll kill the plant. You get the full root, and you have to keep it kind of moist, and then you bring it to the new location that hopefully it will take root again. And then, you know, we cultivate it by digging it down and planting it as soon as you can afterwards. So from a berry, if you plant ginseng, it will not come up the next year. There's also a saying that a ginseng berry will grow after it's passed through a bird, which means the bird eats it, and then it's in its droppings, and then after that it will be ready to grow. But there's a technique you can use where you can take the berries and put them in sand and maybe a small, what would be a little tray where you have sand with the berry in it, and you bury it down very shallowly. So then the next year you come back and the berry is now a small seedling. And then you take the seedling out and you'll plant it. So then the seedling will then come up the next year, and it'll be one little strand coming up with 3 leaves on it. And then the following year it'll send up another shoot that'll look like this one, which is 2 prongs, which will have 3 leaves on each. And then the following year it'll get a little older, and then it may have 5 leaves on each. And then as it gets older, it'll have the 3 prongs. Now the 3 prongs are the only ones that you can legally harvest because it's old enough for it to go through its life cycle. And you harvest them in the fall after the berries have already had a chance to drop and be scattered, so it can propagate the next generation. But once again, look into your local laws regarding that. Okay, right here, this is actually the area where I transplanted some of those other plants I was telling you about. This right here seems to be a very old, strong 3-prong plant. This is a very mature plant, and if you look underneath, you'll see many little younger plants, actually several different generations it looks like, that have been from the berries coming down there. So this would lend me to think that it doesn't necessarily say that the seed has to go through a bird first before it's okay, but this here points out that I think that this is the matriarch of the group, so to speak. So this is a very unique find to see something that's been undisturbed quite this long. Over here, there's a few more in this area. Here is a nice strong 3-prong one right here. And then there's a couple of other smaller, younger ones here, a little 2-prong one, a couple more over here, if you can see that. I would say this plant, at the very least, for something to be that mature, I would say it's at least 7 or 8 years old.